Probably no living human being in the world has affected more lives through his books in the last quarter century than the man I'm about to introduce. His 14 books have sold more than 25 million copies in 18 languages in Braille, and have influenced all elements of our society, from presidents to rock stars, from millionaires to prison convicts, from professional athletes to those men and women who are struggling so hard to free themselves from drug or alcohol addiction. He has also appeared on more than 1,200 radio and television programs around the world. He was an American Air Force officer in World War II and holds the Air Medal and with 5 oak leaf clusters, plus the Distinguished Flying Cross. Following an impressive sales career, he served as executive editor and president of Success Unlimited magazine for 15 years before retiring at the youthful age of 52 to spend all of his time writing, lecturing, and golfing. He's listed in Who's Who in America and Who's Who in the World, was the first recipient of the Napoleon Hill Gold Medal for literary achievement, and in 1984 became only the 14th individual inducted into the International Speakers Hall of Fame. His first book, The Greatest Salesman in the World, has become the all-time bestseller for salespeople in the entire world. And although The Greatest Salesman was published more than a quarter of a century ago, it still continues to sell more than 100,000 copies a month. That's more than 1 million copies a year, from Tokyo to Mexico to Rome. As a matter of fact, I have my personally autographed copy in Japanese, and you may read it if you like. Every generation produces a special and unique voice, a voice crying in the wilderness, a voice telling us that we already have all the tools needed to change our lives for the better, to become the persons that we were created to be, if we choose to change and to become that person. To all of you who have already been influenced by his words, and to those of you who are about to be exposed to this great man's message for the first time, I'm so very proud to introduce to you Og Mandino. Og?
Jack Boland, thank you. Thank all of you for filling this lovely room to capacity and for your loving and warm reception. I appreciate it very much. There was a cartoon in the New Yorker magazine about 2 years ago which depicted a little kid, 4 or 5 years old, dressed in a tuxedo, little shorts, big black bow tie, standing at the footlights looking out over 2 or 3 rows of this very distinguished evening gown and tuxedoed audience. And he was holding a violin in one hand and a bow in the other. And he was leaning over. And he was saying to this very distinguished crowd, "Ladies and gentlemen, before I begin, I just want to remind all of you one more time that I'm only 5 years old. And I just want to remind all of you one more time that I'm just an author. And I do my very best work, I think, in a room they have set aside for me. I'm in there alone with my blue jeans and an old T-shirt, and sometimes I let the beard grow for 2 or 3 days. And I'm wrestling over this old typewriter trying to shape words into sentences and sentences into paragraphs and paragraphs into pages. And after about 2 years, more or less, hopefully I have a new book. And there's no audience watching. I don't hear any applause, no laughter, and certainly no standing ovations. And so whenever I stand up in front of a lovely crowd like this, I always feel that probably the best chance I have of letting you all go away from here with a nice impression of me is maybe if I performed a miracle up here. And you know what? I'm going to try to do that before this evening's over. I really am going to try to perform a miracle up here. Still, because of the books I've been lucky enough to write through the years, I do get invited to speak at great groups like this. And I'm amazed as I travel around the world, because speeches now are going everywhere, Lisbon and Australia and everywhere. I'm amazed. I very often get to share the platform with some of the best professional speakers in the world. And in the last year and a half or so, many of them seem to have gone on a nostalgia kick. They've reached back into the old music hall days and they borrowed a routine that the old baggy pants comedians used to use. And I'm sure you've seen and maybe suffered through a few of them. But anyway, when they're introduced, they don't just come walking up to the platform and say, "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen." They come running down the aisle, or they come leaping out from backstage, and they're waving their arms, and they're kicking their feet, and by the time they get to the lectern, they're out of breath, and they grab that microphone, and they say, "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A funny thing happened to me tonight on the way to the auditorium." And then they tell a joke. And the joke is funny because it involves somebody in the audience that everybody knows, or maybe a local politician or a local landmark. But the joke is funny, and the audience laughs, and this lovely rapport is built up between the speaker and the audience, and the speech is a guaranteed, locked-in success. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to know that in the past 10 years, I probably have given about 600 speeches. From Sydney, Australia to Lisbon, from Mexico City to Guatemala City, from Vancouver to Cape Town. And nothing funny has ever happened to me on the way to any of them. Until tonight. Was walking through the lobby. Jack was just ahead of me. Young man came running up to me carrying a plastic shopping bag, tapped me on the shoulder, and I turned and he said, "Are you Og Mandino?" And I said, "Yes, I am." He said, "Sir, do you have a minute?" And I looked at Jack, and Jack kind of nodded his head. And so we went over to this little table out there by a window. And he said, "Sir, my wife is an Og Mandino nut. She has read everything you have ever written." He said, "And she's brokenhearted today." He says, "She's a teacher. She couldn't come this afternoon, and she can't come tonight because they're having an important meeting. And what I thought I'd do is something with love." He said, "I bought one of every one of your books that's in the bookstore." And he said, "I wonder, next Thursday is her birthday. Would you autograph these books for her?" And I said, "I'd be happy to." So I took out my little pen and I proceeded to write. As I'm talking, I'm looking around to see if I can see him. "To Elizabeth with love, happy birthday, Og Mandino. To Elizabeth with love, happy birthday, Og Mandino." We did the whole, I think it was 7 books. And he puts them back in his little plastic bag and gave me a timid thank you, little hug. And he turned and started to walk away. And I forgot to keep my mouth shut. When he was about 15 feet away from me, I yelled after him, "Hey, is this going to be a surprise for Elizabeth?" And he turned with the most beautiful smile on his face and he said, "It certainly will be, sir. She's expecting a new Toyota Celica." There's an old Japanese legend which tells us that many thousands of years ago in the central part of Japan, there was a mountain with a flat top surrounded by dense jungle. And according to the legend, the mountain was called the place where you leave your parents. If one's parents reached a certain age and they were still alive, their children carried them bodily through the jungle, up to the top of this mountain, and they left them there for the gods. One day we see a strapping young man fighting his way through the underbrush, heading right for the mountain, carrying on his strong shoulders a wisp of an old lady. And as he fought and pushed his way through the jungle, through the brush, heading right for the mountain, he noticed that she was doing something with her hand. And finally, he turned and looked up at her, half in anger and guilt at what he was doing, and half in anger at her, and he asked, "Mother, what are you doing?" And the old lady looked down at her son, tears streaming down her wrinkled cheeks. Her eyes filled only with love for her boy. And she said, "Son, I'm just breaking off a few branches and dropping them to mark a path so that after you leave me, you'll be able to find your way back home." Well, I'm afraid they're getting closer every day to that moment when somebody's going to be lugging me off to my mountain. But before they do tonight, if you let me, I'd like to break a couple of branches for you. The memory experts tell us, this always shakes up other speakers when they hear me say it. The memory experts tell us that we can only remember about 10% of what we hear 10 minutes after we hear it. And I don't want that to happen to you tonight. And so I really and truly am going to try to perform a miracle up here. A mini miracle, but a miracle that may help you later on to recall what I'm going to say tonight about those two very abused words called success and happiness. Might help you at another time when you might need it a lot more than you do this particular evening. You see, like the laws of nature, the laws of gravity, the laws of physics, the true principles of success have been with us for thousands of years, and they've never changed. And these old principles, they're going to work for you, or they're going to work against you. Whether you're a salesman, an executive, an athlete, a coach, the head of a company, a parent, doesn't matter what you do for a living. But we're living in a crazy age, aren't we? An age that sometimes seems to be traveling faster than the speed of light, and so we're all looking for fast answers. We figure we have to have a fast, quick answer just to survive. We're all looking for elevators to success, for free lunches, for easy solutions. And in looking for this quick fix to our problems, we have become so blinded to the old principles that have always worked and always will work, that even though they are still right under our nose, we don't see them anymore, and so we think of them as secrets. Example. And now for the miracle, I hope. Like many, in order for me to read the standard size print in a newspaper or a book or a typewritten letter, I need glasses. Now, I've got bifocals on tonight so that I can see all of you and also read my newspaper if I want to. But I can assure you that when the glasses come off, I cannot read, no matter what I do, the standard size print in a newspaper. It's just gray. Or a book. It's just gray. I cannot see it. Now, in order for me to obtain these 20th century wonders, I had to go to an ophthalmologist, and he sat me down in front of his dancing lights and his grids, and I called off letters and numbers, and after about 20 minutes he wrote out a prescription, and I took it down the street to my favorite optician, and I picked out a frame that I thought would look half decent on my face. He told me to come back the following day, and he went to work with his 20th century equipment, and he ground down this specially refined glass, did whatever he has to do with it. I showed up the next morning, he shaped it to my face, and voila, I can read. Now, how many out there in this great audience, how many out there have the same little problem that I have, that you cannot read the regular size print in a newspaper? If somebody held a gun to your head and said, you read the paper or you die, you're going to be gone. No way, no matter what you do, in and out, forward or backward, could you read without the help of your glasses? It was just a gray blur. Huh? You know, you pick up your paper or something without your glasses on and it's nothing. How many have the same little problem that I do? Hold your hands up real high a minute. I want to see something. Real high. There's a reason why I'm asking you to hold them up real high. There's a man right there. Come on up. I'm pointing to you. Come on up, sir. Come on up.
Yeah, I got it.
How are you? Come on up. What is your name, sir?
Ed Starch.
Ed, live around here?
Oh, in Detroit, in Redford.
Redford. Have we met before?
Never.
Do you have any idea what you're going to do up here? Did we discuss anything?
No,
Obviously,
no.
they now know
No.
that there's no way we did. Now, your glasses are there. Leave them in the pocket.
Okay.
Now, this is this morning's newspaper, Ed. Can you read that without your glasses?
No, I can't.
No matter what.
No matter what.
For sure. If I could show you how to read that without your glasses or without any glasses, would you consider it maybe a little
A little
miracle?
miracle. Right.
All right. Tiny piece of cardboard. Those of you down front can attest to the fact that there ain't no glass here. It's just a piece, right? It's just a piece of cardboard. There are a few little holes punched in it, but it's just cardboard. Ed, take this in your right hand, hold it up close to your eyes, move it back and forth, and if you can read a sentence, Ed, let them hear it. Take your time.
A Southwest Airline 737
Doing great.
thundered off the run.
I'll take that. That's
Thundered off the
fine.
runway.
That's great. All right.
I'll do-
Hold on to that. Hold on to that. Hold on to that. You did great with the newspaper print. Now, these are 6 lines of typewriter type, and this can be tougher. Ed, if you can read this, give it to them with gusto and enthusiasm. They're videotaping. This is your big moment, kid. All right?
All right.
All right. Take your time. Hold this up to your eyes, Ed.
Okay.
And let them hear it loud and clear with gusto and enthusiasm.
Oh, man, what a great night this is, and what a miracle. I can read without my glasses, and I'm standing on the same stage with Odd Mandino. I'll never forget the night. How about that?
Don't go away. Don't go away.
Amazing.
You were marvelous. I would like to reward you. It takes courage to come up here. You had no idea what we're going to do. Here's a first edition autographed copy of my book, A Better Way to Live. And I give it to you
Thank
with
you,
love.
thank you. I bought quite a bit of your book. All right.
Now, why did we do that? Tiny pinholes, whether you put them in a piece of wood, piece of metal, piece of cardboard, doesn't matter what. And look through it. Removes all the blur focus from your eyes and gives you the most perfect form of vision known to man. You know, you almost do some of this when you instinctively squint to see something better. This principle has been known for thousands of years. 400 years before the birth of Christ, the Chinese were reading with an exact model of what you see me holding in my hand. The old principles, whether they involve gravity or nature or optics or success, never change.